All right, so I am going to slowly get started. We may have some others join in as we just passed 3 o'clock. So just wanted to say a big thank you and welcome to our session today. This is the EcoSchools coaching session aiming for platinum. And with that, I will just start with our organizational land acknowledgement. So I'll take a moment to read this and then share a bit about where I'm joining from today. And we really encourage you to share where you're joining from in the chat as well. So EcoSchools is a national charity that supports youth leadership, environmental learning, and climate action. With staff located from coast to coast to coast on both unceded and occupied territories, we recognize the historical and ongoing injustices of colonialism on First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We are dedicated to continually develop our personal and organizational role and responsibilities to reconciliation, to support the 94 calls to action, and to integrate Indigenous perspectives and voices into our programming. As an organization, we aim to engage, support, honor, and celebrate diverse cultures, voices, perspectives, and communities across Turtle Island. We are committed to learning and unlearning by connecting our work to broader projects of social justice, inclusion, and reconciliation. And as a growing network of schools and partners, we will continue to encourage this reflection, growth, and practice with the communities that we serve. And just a few words from me. I am joining from Ngojwanong, also known as Peterborough, Ontario. That's the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. And Ngojwanong means place at the end of the rapids and speaks to the Otonabee River, which runs through it. So I'm continually grateful for the stewardship of this land that has been taking place by Indigenous people since time immemorial and continues to take place to this day. And on this very sunny day in Ngojwanong, I commit to acting with respect and reciprocity to the land and communities around me. All right, so our next is a little Zoom poll to get to know who is joining us today. So I will take a moment and, excuse me, launch this poll. And you should now see that on your screen. I'll give everyone a few moments to answer this. Our first question is asking who's in the room, whether you're an elementary, secondary teacher, or a principal, vice principal, student, or anyone else in your school community. And then we're also a little curious about what your experience with EcoSchools is. So is it your first year? Are you new, but your school has certified in the past? And then we have a few options for years of engagement with the program. So please do take a minute to fill that out. If someone can just give me a hands up to let me know that you are in fact seeing that poll there, or add to the chat if anyone's not seeing that.
We have a couple of answers, so I'm going to assume it's visible.
Oh, okay, great. I just can't see those on my end, I guess. Fantastic. Okay, so I'll just give a couple more moments to anyone who wants to fill those questions out. All right, and I'll end the poll now. And we'll share the results. Can you see those on your end, Emily?
Oh, I see. Are you asking me to read the results out?
Yeah, they're not showing up on my end.
That's okay, no worries. So we have about 2/3 responding elementary teacher and 1/3 secondary teacher. And then we have a kind of a split between people who have been involved for 1 to 3 years and 7 to 10 years. So we have some experts in the room that I'm sure we can also learn a lot from.
Amazing. Well, thanks everyone. So I'll stop sharing there. And and we'll move along and introduce ourselves. So I'm Clara, I'm the Senior Program Manager with EcoSchools Canada, and I'm joined today by Emily, who I'll pass over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the Program Coordinator at EcoSchools Canada. I am currently located in Ontario, but originally from Alberta.
All right, thanks, Emily. And now here's our agenda for today. So we've welcomed everyone, and we're actually going to follow this up with a little quiz, get some more engagement going in the room. And then we will have a quick ECA demo, just a little reminder about how to submit your final application, go through some tips for success, and then dive specifically into some tips and best practices for aiming for Platinum certification. And then, of course, the session today is designed for a Q&A at the end. So please, note down your questions. You can add them to the chat if you think of them throughout the session, and then we'll get to all of your questions at the end. All right, so here's our little quiz. We're going to be asking how much do you know about the ECA, which is the EcoSchools certification application. So I'm going to ask Emily actually to run this series of questions, and then I'll speak to the answers.
All right, the first question, I hopefully launched it as a poll. So question number 1, only teachers and school staff members can have access to a school's plan on the ECA. Do you think that is true or false? So just kind of a fun little check-in for us to see what we think. Alrighty. If you haven't answered, you haven't had a chance to hit true or false, you've got a couple seconds left. All right, we have a pretty overwhelming majority that say false, but we do have a little bit of people who think it is true. Claire, would you like to continue?
Yes, I'll reveal the results. So that is false. Sorry, the correct answer is false. So school staff members, students, and volunteers can all access your school plan through the ECA. So both staff and student users have the ability to contribute to the creation of a school plan and actively participate in completing various actions within it. The student and volunteer accounts are slightly different just for reasons of data privacy. So student accounts can't upload documentation or submit the final application. And we do have more guidance on this if you are interested in adding and managing the users on your plan. We have a pretty comprehensive FAQ section with helpful videos. And that's on our main website. We can add that to the chat. All right, go ahead, Emily.
Okay, launching our next question. Question number 2. What is the minimum point score the school must achieve to be recognized as a platinum school? So is it 95 points, 100 points, or 101 points? So take a second to see if you remember. No pressure, just for fun. I think I'm seeing a similar amount from the last time, so I will, if you want to get something in, you've got a couple seconds. The majority say 101 points, but again, there are a couple votes for 95 and 100.
Okay, so revealing the results over here, it is 101. That is platinum, so 101 plus points that a school must accumulate through the completion of actions in the ECA. And a school's final points are also dependent on a full assessment of the school's application by an EcoSchools assessor. Points may be adjusted, added, or removed based on verification against our certification rubric, which we'll talk about soon.
All right, question number 3. In addition to accumulating 101 or more points, a school aspiring to reach platinum level must fulfill program requirements to complete must fulfill program requirements, complete a platinum eligibility questionnaire, and participate in a virtual school visit. Is that true or false? The answers are coming in quick here. We have an overwhelming true. It's like when you write a question on a quiz and it's the very long one, and students always pick it as true.
Yes, everyone selected true is correct here. So schools that are aspiring for platinum must demonstrate that the environmental program is well established and that environmental learning and action are integral elements of your school culture. So we've outlined this. That's our rubric that I just mentioned on the screen there. And we'll talk more about these requirements later in the presentation. Over to you.
Okay, launching question number 4. What is the deadline for completing the Platinum Eligibility Questionnaire this year? So has it already passed January 30th, already passed February 16th, or is it in a couple days, February 23rd? You can throw your votes in. What do you think? When is the deadline for the Platinum Eligibility Questionnaire? We'll talk a little bit more about what that is in a few slides. All right, we are again having everyone selecting February 23rd. You were correct. We did select the date of this to come before the deadline.
That's correct. So we will again talk more about this, and if anyone is having trouble accessing the questionnaire, yeah, we'll be in touch and we'll chat more later. Okay, back to you, Emily.
What is the duration of a virtual school visit? Is it 1 hour, 30 minutes, or 45 minutes? How long do you think we chat about your year together? With yourselves, sometimes with students, and there's a whole eco team, sometimes one teacher. All right, everyone answered very fast, and I will say it's almost a split between all 3 of them, with 1 hour pulling ahead a little bit.
Okay, so it's actually 30 minutes. So we do want to make sure we're respecting your time because we know it's a super busy time of year. So these typically last around 30 minutes. And again, we'll talk more about these school visits later, but typically the assessor will pose a series of questions about your experience in the program, and we may just seek some clarification about some details in your application.
They are a really fun time to get to connect with yourselves and with your groups and just celebrate you and all the amazing work you're doing. The next question, can we claim a school project that exceeds the scope of an existing action card? So if you're doing a gardening action, but it's gone bigger than the gardening action, you haven't just made a garden, but maybe you've made multiple gardens, and maybe one of them has become a learning garden, and the food from the garden is being given to a food bank. It's just going above and beyond what is in the card. Is there a way this year to claim that action for being bigger and better? Getting a couple answers. If you want to squeeze in your answer, I'll give you another couple seconds. Okay, most of you are saying yes, there is a way this year, but there is a few people who might say no, which makes sense because in the past there wasn't that, but this year the answer is yes.
Yeah, so we actually launched a new action this year. So we're trying out an action called Extend Your Action. And this means if your school implemented a comprehensive environmental project that goes beyond the scope of a single EcoSchools action, as Emily described, you have the option to claim it here. And we have more information about this within the guide of the action itself, which is on the ECA.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, you can get up to an extra 10 points, depending on how your action is extended. And our very last question for our little starter quiz. What is the final deadline for submitting our certification application this year? Is it May 3rd, May 10th, or May 17th? And those are all Fridays. Oh, this is a good date to know. If you have any other thoughts, you can squeeze them in now. It is an equal split between May 10th and May 17th.
All right, well, this is a good reminder then. It is May 10th, and that is, it's always on the second Friday in May, which falls on May 10th this year. So that means completing all your actions and getting your whole application submitted by that date. Okay, so that's all for our quiz. Thanks for participating in that. It was fun to hear the answers and have a little bit more interaction on our session. So before we get into more details on best practices and Platinum certification, I am going to do a super quick demo on the ECA, just as a little reminder on what to do when you're getting to that stage of completing your application. So I'm going to just switch over to the dashboard of this test school account. Hopefully everyone can see that on my screen. So you should be pretty familiar with this if you are participating in the EcoSchools program this year or have in past years. This is the dashboard. I'll maybe just point out on the dashboard this What's New bar, because this is something we're really loving, and it's a new feature on the account where you can quickly see some upcoming reminders and important dates. So we've, have the reminder about the Platinum eligibility questionnaire that's due, upcoming webinars, and all of that good stuff. And then I will just go over to our plan, which is the plan that your school has curated for the actions that you're intending to take part in this year. So this test school has a whole bunch of actions in it. This school might just be deciding which ones they want to complete this year. You'll see down at the bottom here, these are the ones that are actually fully completed. But I'll go into one that's in progress just to show you what needs to be completed before you submit your application. So scroll down to the certification questions here. We'll put in a start date, answer a few of the questions. And when you're answering them, of course, these are to reflect what is happening at your school, how this action looked, but we have some sample answers in here already. And I'll scroll down here. So the only question that's actually a mandatory question is the action description, where you can just tell us a little bit more about how the action took place at your school. So once you fill that out, you'll actually see that this done button becomes activated. So it's you're not able to complete it before filling out that final text box here, but please fill out all the relevant questions. And then once you're done, click that button, and then this will become a completed action. And that needs to be done for all of the actions in your plan. But say, for example, you've decided that you weren't able to run that walking and rolling campaign this year that you were planning to do. That's not a problem. You can just remove it from your plan. So for any uncompleted actions that you didn't end up doing, those will need to be removed from your plan before you can submit. And then once you have completed all your actions or removed any actions that you didn't end up doing, this submit button is going to turn green. And that's where you'll press submit for your final application. And that's before that, or by the May 10th deadline this year. So if anyone has any other questions about the application specifically, we can definitely address those in the question period.
And I'll just jump in, and for our Platinum schools, you just want to make sure that it says eligible for Platinum right there on your dashboard. And we'll talk about like the Platinum questionnaire and how you get there, but that's how you can check to make sure if you are aiming for platinum that you are eligible for platinum.
Yes, thanks for pointing that out, Emily. That's going to indicate that you, in fact, have completed that platinum questionnaire. All right, so we'll switch back over here, and I will pass it over to you, Emily.
Thanks, Clara, for the little demo and for leading our little questions at the beginning. So yeah, some tips for success. So before we get into the expectations and best practices for Platinum schools, we just wanted to review a few tips that are helpful for everyone to keep in mind as you're completing your application this year. So the first tip is to claim actions from the current year only. So actions, projects, and campaigns that your school reports on should take place in the current school year, so September to June for most schools. Because EcoSchools is an annual certification program, we assess environmental action and learning that the schools undertake in that given year. So if there are actions that are established at your schools and integrated into everyday practices, so for example, maybe you started a recycling program last year, but it's continuing on this year, or there's a garden that you're maintaining. To claim these actions, there needs to be some kind of ongoing learning, maintenance, or student engagement that's still taking place this year. So like the examples that I gave. If there is work taking place after the submission deadline, so after May 10th, between May 10th and whenever your school year ends, you can still report on these. Just let us know what's being planned. So this could include quite often school ground greening projects, like a food garden, maybe that's continuing over the summer. For the section on documentation, you can just submit meeting notes or plans or drafts of what's going to come up. So to the best of your ability, what is this action going to look like? The next tip for success is to avoid duplication. So it's important that you make sure that you're not claiming the same action twice. This can happen when there's overlap in certain activities that your school did this year. So for example, if you participate in Great Gulp and you connected it to single-use plastics, you can't take that one activity or that one action and claim it for both Great Gulp and reduce single-use plastics. There has to be some form of action that separates the two. So if you have more questions about that, please ask them in the Q&A session. We'd be happy to clarify on that. You're also always welcome to reach out to us if you have a specific question in either the drop-in hours or by email. We're happy to help you kind of sort those out if needed. The next tip for success is to adapt the action for your school. So actions are going to be most successful if you adapt them to the unique circumstances of your school. So as you probably are aware, there's guidance and resources that we've provided in our action guides, but they are suggestions. So they don't have to apply to your school. And we really recommend to just only use what works for you. And don't feel a need to fill out every question. On the certification application, you only need to answer the ones that apply to how the action actually took place. One piece of feedback that we've received from teachers is that the program can feel overwhelming for one staff member to take on independently. And while having one staff member and one class or one eco club is a great way to start, the program, as the program builds in your school, you might be looking for ways to start sharing the work. So we have a couple ideas here on how you might share the work. So something that we've seen successfully implemented, especially in primary, elementary, and middle schools, is having each class select one action at the beginning of the year. So maybe the grade 6 class is learning about biodiversity that year, so they take on a biodiversity, the biodiversity action. Maybe the grade 3s are learning about plants that year, so it makes a lot of sense for them to make a pollinator garden. So each class is taking on one action. And then the teacher, well, I was going to say, I guess I kind of said that. Teachers can select things that align with their classroom curriculum or allow students to pave the way in selecting the action as a community building activity. So each classroom, in this case, you want to have each classroom teacher with an account on the ECA, and they're responsible for inputting the data for just that one certification question. You might even consider making a poster that shows the school what every class is working on. I saw that in one school and just thought it was such a sweet idea to kind of celebrate all the different things going on in all the classes. Another way that you can share the work, which is especially useful in middle school and high school, is by having the students in the eco team break into smaller subcommittees that are each responsible for leading and tracking one action on the ECA. So as we mentioned before, staff are able to create accounts on the ECA. You can find out how to do that in our managing users section of our FAQ. But staff can make accounts for students, and then it can be helpful to have, say, like, this student or this group of students are in charge of filling out this action. And that can help spread the work and allow for the teachers to be more of a reviewer before the final submission, and less of the one doing all of the data input. We also recognize that students do fill in application questions. So if you have some of your middle school students filling it in and it's clear that it's a student voice, you're not penalized in any way for having your student voices talk about what you did. Yeah. So this is a space where we can kind of be open to your insights. I know at the very beginning we asked how long you participated, and we had at least a couple people who said over 7 years. So we definitely have some experts in the room. Do you have any recommendations or tips from your school from successfully implementing the EcoSchools program? We just really love to hear them. We just really value your suggestions, and we think you have the sorry, I'm just so excited. Your valuable suggestions have potential to benefit other schools in the community, so feel free to share them with us in the chat, or if you want to unmute and share, this is kind of our space to get to chat about some of your best practices and to learn from you. So I'll give a minute in case anyone is fervorously typing in the chat some of your best practices or things tips that you think other schools might find really useful. Or you can just unmute and let us know your thoughts.
I'm seeing one question in the chat there, Emily, and I can just hop in and speak to that. So the question is, do we have a program like Bag to School to divert textile waste? So the Bag to School program, that's a program we used to collaborate with, but I believe that particular textile diversion program is no longer operating, or at least operating how it used to, but we do have lots of great tips and suggestions on that divert textile waste action in the EcoSchools application, where you can get great ideas about how to implement that at your school. And your school board or district might have good suggestions for local organizations that you can partner with on projects like that.
Alrighty, well, if any other tips or suggestions or ideas bubble to the surface and you want to share them, oh, we have one in the chat here. I'll get a couple now. So we have Virginia, who says that they're using activities and lessons from their environmental class, that time in with EcoSchools. Yes, so using your class time to do some of the EcoSchools projects with your environmental science class is wonderful. We love implementing things into the curriculum. There's a lot of overlap. Absolutely. Yes, there's a lot of overlap in the curriculum, and there's always ideas for how you can incorporate these into your classrooms and into your curriculum on the ECA under the curriculum tab. Thank you for sharing. We also have, we found Earth Rangers to be a great community partner this year. We also love Earth Rangers. We've partnered with them for our Project 2050 resources. So those are also available on our website. There's some really fun ones. But yeah, they're great to bring into your school. It's great to have presentations. Thank you for sharing that, Linda. Earth Rangers are awesome. And they helped you organize a battery recycling event. Amazing. That's so cool. What a wonderful action. We also have one that says, I send out an email every month or two letting teachers know about PD opportunities and ways to learn through EcoSchools initiatives. That is very helpful. One of the suggestions I've heard is having time at staff meetings, like taking a minute of like EcoSchools time at staff meetings can also be helpful. So great to know that you're out there kind of supporting your coworkers. We also have reach out to outdoor field centers and talk to your admin about funding available to be used for field trips and resources related to EcoSchools initiatives. That is another really great tip. We have look into grants. Absolutely, another great tip. We also have the Eco funding page on the EcoSchools website where we've tried to find national grants. So if you're looking for where do I start looking for grants, you can actually start on our website. But I agree, looking for grants is another important piece to get the support that you need. And I also mentioned last time that it's a very helpful to plug away on the website about your initiatives throughout the year. Yeah, so filling in I believe that what you mean is like filling in the ECA certification applications kind of as you go is something we always recommend, and it's great to hear that you've also found that useful. Thank you so much for those thoughts. I see a couple more. Our county's waste management office has been a great resource of ideas. Oh, that's so interesting. I never would have thought to reach out to a waste management office. That's awesome. We also have Evergreen, Brickwork, TRCA, and Bee City Canada do online workshops with kids for free. So finding online free workshops that you can do is a great way to, when you can't have someone come to the school, but you want to make it exciting. These are all really great tips, and we really appreciate you sharing these, especially from such experts in the program. So thank you, everyone. And if more things bubble to the surface, please know that you can share it in the chat. You can unmute. I can stop chatting. Yeah. Speaking into the void, I feel like there's a need to like fill in the silence. So you can interrupt me at any time. Alrighty. So we'll continue. I'm going to pass it off to Claire to talk a little bit more about the Platinum program specifically, what you need to become a Platinum school. Let's take it away, Claire.
Thanks, Emily. And yeah, thanks for everyone's ideas in the chat. We'll have more time at the end if people want to unmute and start kind of just sharing ideas amongst each other. It's always kind of the best way for us to learn about what's going on with schools and how we can support you best. So yeah, like Emily said, we're going to dive into specifically Platinum now, and I'm sure provide reminders to some, but maybe some new best practices and tips. So this is just a little reminder about what is required for Platinum, that you need to earn 101 or more points. But the EcoSchools program also needs to be well established, and environmental learning and action should be a defining element of your school culture throughout the school year and extend beyond the school walls. So this is more of a holistic perspective on what it means to be a Platinum EcoSchool. And then to get into our rubric again that we mentioned earlier, this is what we use to help guide our assessment process. The first page of this rubric outlines the broad expectations of a Platinum school, as well as the core requirements that must be fulfilled in order to certify at this level. So first, you must create a plan on the ECA. That is hopefully checked off already. And the plan must show that you intend to collect 101 or more points throughout the year. This will then prompt that Platinum eligibility questionnaire that we've been talking about to pop up automatically in the ECA. And the purpose of the questionnaire is to ensure that you're prepared to take on the task of pursuing Platinum. Your answers to the questionnaire must satisfy the rubric. So they're based upon what we've outlined there for expectations of your plan. And then, of course, you must submit your final plan by the deadline in May, and then achieve 101 points after assessment. And then your school may be asked to participate in a school visit, which I'll speak about in a couple of minutes. And then finally, all the program elements, which I'll show you on the following page, must be fulfilled. And we'll share a link to that rubric in the chat in case you haven't seen this document before. So the rubric does go into more detail of what a robust EcoSchools program looks like in practice. So for Platinum EcoSchools, we expect that all of these elements are fulfilled. And these elements are rigor, collaboration and reach, student leadership, and extensions and reflections. So do take a look at that if you are maybe new to Platinum, or if you just want to take a look at maybe a more structured resource on kind of how to view your goals as a Platinum school. And here is a little screenshot of the questionnaire. So the deadline is coming up on February 23rd. And in order to certify at Platinum, you have to satisfactorily answer all the questions on the questionnaire. So it includes 6 yes or no questions, and a positive yes response to all the questions is required to advance to the Platinum level. If you answer no to any of the questions, you'll be rerouted to the gold level. So the questionnaire is built into the ECA and should automatically pop up, and it will reappear or should reappear at every login until it's submitted or the deadline passes. You can also access it by navigating to our plan and selecting the Open Platinum Eligibility Questionnaire button that's located on the Welcome to Your School's Action Plan section. And if your school is aiming for Platinum, please ensure you have enough points in your plan to be eligible ahead of the deadline. I know we're really kind of hammering that in, but because it's a new requirement or a new addition to the program after discontinuing this requirement for a couple of years, we just want to make sure everyone's clear on how it works, and we're happy to support you if you have any questions. One other little note is that, only staff members on your account will be able to see the pop-up. So if you do have a really active student team who is doing a lot of the filling out of the application, this is something to keep in mind, that they actually won't be getting that prompt. So you'll have to have yourself or another staff member complete that. All right, just trying to advance my slide here. Okay, so here's just a little summary of some of the other program deadlines and key dates this year. So we have the questionnaire on February 23rd, this Friday, then our early bird deadline. And just to go back to that for a moment, the questionnaire is the only thing you need to complete by that date. You don't have to complete any other actions in your plan by that point. Just the questionnaire. And then our early bird deadline is April 26th. So that's just encouraging schools who might have already wrapped up their application to submit a little early so we can get started on assessing them. And we always enter schools into a prize draw for those that submit by that early bird deadline. Our final deadline, once again, is May 10th. And then if you are selected for a virtual school visit, this will be between late May and early June. This is a portion of certifying EcoSchools, an opportunity for questions and feedback. We very much welcome students to attend these sessions as well. It's always amazing to hear about, their perspective on the program and all of the great initiatives that they've been taking part in. And it is about 30 minutes. All right, so we'll head on to some best practices and inspiration with Emily.
Thank you. Um, the virtual school visits are my favorite part. Last year, I had a class where the every student presented one of the actions that they worked on, and it was just so inspiring. And it's inspiring to get to meet with the educators behind it. You are, I'm, yeah, blown away by everyone in this program. um, so as we continue to talk about the program, let's talk about best practices and we'll share some inspiration. So in the following slides, I'll take you through some examples of best practices. You've already shared some best practices and inspiration, and so this is our chance to share a few back for schools that are aiming at platinum certification. So here is one of our examples. So just thinking about your eco team roles and responsibilities. So it might be a best practice to establish clear roles and responsibilities for those at your school who are planning and carrying out EcoSchools actions. So in the Getting Started action, you have an opportunity to tell us a little bit about who is on your eco team, how often you meet. In the action documentation section, you can add or upload photos, such as the sign-up sheet you see on the screen to demonstrate the different roles in your eco team. So having representation from different grades and a variety of staff members will only make your eco team stronger. So some examples of how you might structure your eco team include having perhaps just a class as an eco team. We've seen that a few times from across all grades. Or you might form an eco team where your eco team is made up of different eco reps, maybe one from each grade. So maybe you have 2 eco reps from grade 1 and 2 eco reps from grade 2, so on and so forth. And you all come together to talk about your eco school actions. Or you could think about potentially having subcommittees in your eco schools team. So maybe you could have a fundraising committee or a gardening committee. You might also find it helpful to have some defined roles in your EcoSchools team. So perhaps having a secretary or a treasurer. All of these can be helpful ways to kind of organize your team to give them more roles and responsibilities and just different ways to think about your eco team. Another one is learning in, about, for, and from the environment. So offering students across all grades and subject areas a chance to learn in, about, for, and from the environment will create an engaged students citizenry who are informed about environmental issues and motivated to take change. So collaboration among staff can expand teachers' ideas and approaches to bolster student environmental literacy and strengthen your EcoSchools program. So environmental literacy environmental literacy should provide all students with the opportunity to learn in the environment, so to solidify student sense of place and social emotional connections to the environment by getting outside, to learn about the environment. So that helps engage students in learning about the different environmental topics and socio-ecological systems through a critical lens. We want students to learn for the environment, so to turn learning into action. This is where EcoSchools really shines, with the aim of making a world a more sustainable and equitable place. And learning from the environment. So we want to ensure that students develop a deeper and more reciprocal connection to the environment and see nature as teacher. So additional guidance can be found in the environmental literacy action. We have a lot of resources there. In addition to getting started, environmental literacy is the other locked action. So these are mandatory actions because they're going to help your school maintain a strong foundation for environmental learning and action. So at the platinum level, they really just represent a challenge to go even deeper. So you might be doing a community cleanup with your students, but at a platinum school, that might go even deeper. So not just learning in the environment, but learning from the environment during your cleanup. How can you continue to go deeper? The next best practice and some inspiration for you is to keep your eco team visible beyond the school walls. So you can grow the impact of your eco team's initiatives by promoting and communicating your great work, especially when it goes beyond your school and into the broader community. So in most actions, you'll see a certification question. like what communication strategies do students use to effectively communicate your action to the school community, and how was the broader community involved in this action? So this is where you can actually let us know how you got the word out, who was involved. Some examples of this could include a community newspaper article about your environmental initiatives, or a school board or school district media release about your EcoSchools program. This could also look like an environmentally themed open house, which all the community members are invited to. It could also look like regular updates via a publicly viewable social media account. Like you can see here, we have like a Twitter account from Francis Liberman's Green Team. And on the right there, you can see an example of creating community newspaper articles. So we talked a little bit about the broader community, but let's talk about the broader school community. So we'll just continue to focus in on the broader school community involvement for a moment because it's a very impactful component of a strong EcoSchool. So for example, if students organize a conference with a neighboring school and invite parents and community members, this could be claimed under the Environmental Fair and Conference Action. So at the platinum level, we know that schools are doing great things, and we just want to encourage schools to collaborate within their school, and they could even or collaborate with another school or organization to continue to spread knowledge and build support for the campaigns that your school is undertaking. Our last best practice and inspiration is investigating change over time. So actions like the switch off lights and devices, heating and cooling, sort your waste, all of these actions include tracking sheets that allow your schools to monitor behavior change throughout the school year. So tracking multiple times over the course of the year can allow students to see the impact of their awareness campaigns and consider why or why not behaviors have changed. So you can see an example here of a very visual way that we've had a school sort of show some of their change over time. So it's a tracking sheet, but it also creates more awareness throughout the school. So photos of your tracking sheets or other means of tracking can also be uploaded to the action documentation section for these actions. Oh, sorry, there were a couple more. I got myself a little mixed up. So another best practice here is that the data that your school reports in your application is not only used to assess whether how you completed an action, but it's also used by EcoSchools to track the environmental impact of schools across Canada and create a baseline for year-over-year comparison so you can track your school's progress. For this reason, we ask that you try your best to accurately report the data in your application. This is my favorite part of the ECA, and if you haven't had a chance to check out the impact section of your on the ECA, I really recommend it. We are having another webinar. We'll mention it at the end here on March 5th, where we're going to go into more detail exploring this. But this is where students can feel like they're not just a drop in a bucket. They can see, yeah, okay, our school planted 3 trees this year. What's the big deal? Well, you can then see, okay, but across Canada, we planted 8,000 trees. Or last year, we planted 3 trees. And this year, we planted 5 trees. So we can see ourselves growing over time. There's just so much cool data in there that makes the impact feel larger. So I highly recommend checking it out and attending our next webinar or checking out the next recording if you're watching this in the future, because it's really, really cool. Yeah, so actions such as the school energy footprint and school water footprint include certification questions that ask for school building metrics that may not be available on hand for most members of an eco team. So for these questions, we recommend consulting with your school's caretaker, principal, or school board or district office to get this information. So to help you get started, each EcoSchools action has an action resources tab. Use the data collection sheets that are there. We highly recommend that you use the EcoSchools data collection sheets because they directly reflect the questions in the ECA. So sometimes on these sheets, it'll even say like, this is the answer for like question 7. So we highly recommend you use the tracking sheets that we provide just to make it even easier to get that into the certification questions. If you get stuck, you can always reach out to us at programs@ecoschools.ca. Okay, keep. Another one is the most successful EcoSchools programs are those that value and encourage student leadership. So even on an elementary school level, there are lots of ways that you can provide opportunities for your students to take the lead. That could look like planning, promotion, regular maintenance of actions. One model is to have the younger students and older students pair up as eco buddies to share environmental tips and practices. By letting students take the lead, they can gain a variety of skills from researching an environmental topic and then organizing ways to raise awareness and engage the school community in learning and action. This was mentioned actually by somebody already when we asked you for inspiration, but looking for those curriculum connections. So although strong curriculum connections have always been a marker of a platinum eco school, in the past couple of years, the ability to run the EcoSchools program in the classroom and through cohorted learning has become more important than ever. So in each action, I mentioned this before, you will find ideas for curriculum connections. In the action description, you can provide more details about how you connected the action to in-class lessons. You can attach examples to the action documentation section. So here you can see some examples of some wonderful biodiversity posters that this Eco Club, which was done through a class, were able to do that aligned with what they were doing in science and aligned with their eco action of doing a biodiversity survey. Yeah, keep going. So another best practice we see at Platinum schools is established actions in campaigns. So those that are embedded into regular practice and the culture of the school. So for example, an active and sustainable school travel campaign would not only be like one walk or roll school day a year, but it might look like weekly events like Walking Wednesdays or Sustainable Transit Tuesdays. This could mean establishing practices each year. Like maybe every year you have a goose paper boxes. So those are good on one side. Boxes, the whole paper that's still good on one side. But maybe every year you have goose paper boxes in every classroom of your school, and they're used regularly throughout the year. So that these are just ways that you can kind of continue to have these ongoing campaigns that are established instead of just one-time events. That's something that we really like to see in our Platinum schools, is moving from like one-time events to established practices. Okay. And this really is the last idea for best practices and inspiration. So the final best practice we're going to talk about today is just getting the whole school involved. So there's lots of creative ways that you can spread awareness and offer engagement opportunities to the whole school. This might be through pledges, having each class take the lead on a different action, or in this example, getting together to take a great gulp. So always make sure that there are clear connections to deeper learning and engagement when planning awareness-raising challenges. So for example, with the Great Gulp action, you can raise awareness with your school community about drinking water, access to safe and healthy tap water in Canada, and the importance of reducing single-use plastic. So it goes beyond just all taking a drink of water together, but learning about the why behind it as a whole school is just so powerful. Now I will pass it back to Clara to talk a little bit more about if you've got questions that you're not able to ask today or questions that come up. I always have questions that come up as soon as I leave a meeting. What do you do with those questions and how can we support you?
Okay, thank you so much, Emily. And I hope some of those practices resonated with you or sparked maybe some new ideas. So we just wanted to give a little reminder. We're trying out a new format this year where we have drop-in sessions. And you can find, so these sessions are just casual, an EcoSchool staff member will be there. You can drop in with your questions and we can answer them on the spot. So to find the upcoming drop-in hours, you'll typically see these on the What's New bar in the EcoSchools application, or on the ECA on your dashboard, which I showed you earlier on in the demo. So just wanted to flag that these are available to our school community, and we'd love to see you there if questions come up after today's session or before our deadline. And then quickly, because I do want to make sure we have at least a few minutes left for any questions, and we are happy to stay a couple minutes after as well. These are just some upcoming opportunities for schools and students to gain additional recognition and even win some prizes. So once again, we have our Project 2050 badge, and that's the project we mentioned we're collaborating on with Earth Rangers. So this recognizes schools for their contribution to a climate resilient future. And all you need to do to receive that badge is to complete 3 or more actions in the Project 2050 pathway. And you can find all about what those actions are on our campaign page for Project 2050. And we're going to put a link in the chat to find where our campaigns are and where you can learn about them. The next is our Litterless campaign, which also has a badge for this year. And that's all about tracking waste-related actions. And if you're interested in joining this campaign, you can follow the easy steps on our Litterless campaign. And then a couple other little reminders is our National Goosepaper Day, which is always exciting. That's the first Thursday in April. So that's the Good on One Side paper contest. So we challenge schools to create creative goosepaper bins, and then you can show us your bins on social media and win a fun prize and the title of a goose paper bin winner. And then last of all is our Young Reporters for the Environment campaign. And that is a national campaign that offers youth the opportunity to amplify their voices and raise awareness on local issues. The deadline for that this year is the 14th of April. And I'll just say all the details are on that campaigns page, and there are many more campaigns you can check out there as well.